What are we gonna do when we get back?
What are we gonna do when we get back?
I take a shower and hit the rack.
Take a shower and hit the rack.
Welcome to Charlie Mike. If you're a combat veteran with an entrepreneurial bug and want to know what highly successful combat veteranpreneurs are doing to transform their sacrifice and experience to create their visual reality, then this is dedicated to your inspiring and fulfilling future. And now your host, Dwayne Paro.
No way, gotta run, feet, lots of fun.
Invest in Yourself ebook is my free gift to you for listening to the show and becoming part of the CO Nation. To receive your free gift, please go to landmarklifecoaching.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode. There are so many veterans with the core strengths to become successful entrepreneurs and continue to make a huge positive impact on our country. Here we highlight the amazing successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Combat veterans for the purpose of this show are soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who have served the United States in wars, campaigns, and in theater on foreign soil or hostile waters. Our guest today is Nick Bradfield. Nick is a Marine veteran, a graduate of Northwestern University with a master's in Predictive Analytics, and the founder of Divvy Investments, an advisor-friendly robo-advisor. He started his career in financial services as a financial advisor with a large brokerage firm. After a few years, Nick decided it was time to move on. He spent several years with a financial services consulting firm, followed by a brief stint at a publicly traded technology company. Nick was not the right fit for the corporate world. Upon being told he needed to care less about his customers, he decided it was time to go into business for himself. When not working, Nick can be found playing superheroes with his son, gazing deeply into his wife's eyes, of which she just rolled, and talking about baseball. Nick passed the Series 65 exam, which allows him to operate as an investment advisor representative. All right, Nick, well, welcome to the show, and thank you for being a guest.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you tell our loyal listeners all about your journey from a combat veteran to a successful entrepreneur. But before we get into your entrepreneurial experience, can you please give our audience an overview of your military experience?
Sure. I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school, went to School of Infantry and LAV school after that. I became an LAV crewman. The majority of the time that I was a gunner on a LAV 25, which had a 25 millimeter cannon, which was really cool to shoot. And then towards the end of my time in, I just did 4 years. I was a vehicle commander, and I got out as a sergeant, which was the best job in the world. You have the ability to coach up and coach down at that time. And it was all around a great experience. As I look back, I met a bunch of great guys, and they're a part of my extended family now.
Yeah, definitely. That seems to be a trend, right? It's so easy to become so deeply enmeshed with those that you serve with that it seems to be a forever bond.
Absolutely.
Yeah, myself being a combat veteran, having come from a long lineage of combat veterans, I mean, even to this day, my dad talks about men that he was served in Vietnam with, and that was 40 some years ago. So yeah, that is amazing. And our veterans struggle when they get out because that's not necessarily the environment that they're going to walk into.
That's right.
And I find it interesting that you use the term that you have the ability to coach up and down in the military, which is so true. Because when you get out into the civilian sector, you have your swim lane, and as a corporate person, you are responsible for those only who report to you, and sometimes not even have direct control of those who report to you because of these matrixed organizations where you may have a team of people, but you basically farm them out to other areas.
Yep.
And so you have very little impact on their career. You have very little impact on their growth. And so I agree. That is a great aspect of the military, is being able to influence and take care of those, whether they're, above you, below you in rank, or right there at the same level. You really grow to learn to lean on each other, and especially in combat environments.
Sure.
And so so that's always such a different aspect between being in the military and being in the civilian world. So so Nick, can you tell our listeners about your business that you've created, the Divvy Investments?
Sure. Divvy Investments is it's an online tool which helps simplify investing. So originally it started out for the do-it-yourself investor to be a tool for them to help find the right asset allocation for their retirement investments. And then they would receive alerts when they needed to rebalance. And as that evolved, I had financial advisors coming to me saying, hey, I want to use your tool for my clients. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds great. So I still have the site set up so individuals can use it if they want. I mainly focus on helping other financial advisors make their businesses more efficient. Right now, what happens is an advisor may have 100 clients, and each one of those clients, they create a different investment mix for, or a different portfolio for. And so what they end up doing is they end up spending all their time behind the computer and not that much time actually building relationships with clients. So by using my tool for 75-ish% of their clients, that frees up time for them to get out from behind the computer and out shaking hands and hugging babies. And when they're building those relationships, that's where they can really add more value to their clients and focus less on the returns on the statement and just kind of pass that piece of it along to me, but then add more value with more financial planning and here's where you are now, here's where you want to be, here's what I'm going to do to help you get there. And it really allows them to to grow their businesses more efficiently.
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing tool. I mean, I got to tell you, I find investing to be extremely intimidating, and so I'm always, leveraging a model of, my 401k, provider, and
Sure.
so, I wouldn't dare venture out and try to pick that stock that I think would do well, or even pretend to know, how it's going to do, and I'm sure there's, like anything, there's a lot of learning curve, and you really have to know what you're doing. And the model that you've developed with this is pretty amazing. You basically can walk into one of these financial organizations and say, look, I can add value to what you're doing. I can help you basically to grow your business just purely by having you use this tool, so you can be involved in different aspects that allow you to expand your service offerings. That's got to be that's got to be very intriguing from a sales perspective when somebody hears that.
It is. It's something that I'm very passionate about, because I spent some time. I've been in the financial services world for a while now, and I'm passionate about helping people make better decisions with their investments. And for other investment advisors, they either get it or they don't. Mm-hmm. So there are some that right when I walk in the door, they kind of put up their guard right away because they think that I'm trying to take their clients or something like that. And I'm not at all. They're just, so many people are so used to people not wanting to help and wanting to find an angle to get at them or something. And I'm truly coming in to try to help them. And obviously I have a business too, and I want to help them through my business, but my goal is really to help them grow their business. And so the ones that get that, it's less of a sale. It's more of I talk about it, and my high pressure sales pitch is basically, I'd love to help you out if it's something you're interested in. If not, that's fine too. And most of the time, we just kind of skip the whole sales thing and talk about the best ways to implement it, and how it can help them focus on a niche, or how we can add more value to their practice by focusing on a niche, or how are we going to market their services more, and using my tool just kind of becomes a byproduct of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you? Sorry to interrupt. Do you?
Sure.
Do you find that there's a kind of a two parties to this when you go into these different places? Like somebody who may be older and has had their company for a while, they're kind of set in their ways, being this is and to them this is kind of like a new technology, right? So they're very skittish about adopting a new way, even though ultimately it's going to add value and increase productivity and allow them to do other things. Do you find that you have a group like that, or then you have a group that's like, they just started, they've been around a lot less time, and they're like, wow, I could see where this could really help me, and they're all in like right away?
Absolutely. There's really kind of if they're on the first half of their career, it makes a lot of sense for them because they're in kind of growth mode, right. And if they're in growth mode, then it usually just clicks and they get it. And like I said, we spend less time talking about my tool and it actually selling and talking about more value adds and how we can implement it, and creating niches for them and all that. Whereas the people in the second half of their career, if they're still in growth mode, it could work. But if they're not, if they're kind of in coasting mode and kind of winding down mode, then it really isn't a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I have a background in technology, having served as a chief information officer for a federal aerospace engineering firm. Even within an organization, we have, we have two parties. We have two camps. We have those that are, like you said, later in their career, and they're like, oh, not another new technology. Mm-hmm. And then we have the people who are earlier in their career and growing in their career, and they're like, oh yeah, this is awesome, right? This is going to really help me, and I can definitely see the benefits. And yep. So, just, quote unquote, selling it within the organization has, very similar hurdles to overcome, because you've got to be able to present it so that both camps buy off on it and see the value for them. Because really, sure. Ultimately, that's what they got to see is, okay, yeah, I understand there's value, but what's my value?
Right.
Yeah. So that's good. Is this something that you basically developed from the ground up?
I did. I was a traditional financial advisor in a prior life, and I came up with the original idea. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, the economy completely tanked.
Yeah, I think that's on everybody's mind still.
Yeah. So I came up with the idea when I was an advisor in 2008 and 2009 and 10. There was a lot going on in the world, obviously, and I was trying to find ways to minimize fees, and I got really interested in asset allocation and creating these models, and really interested in these low-cost funds and this thing called modern portfolio theory, which I won't bore you with the details of that, but I got really interested in it then, and then I basically talked about it for 5 years. And finally, there was something that happened in the corporate world, and then my wife was like, "Look, you've been talking about this for several years now. Either do it or don't. I'm sick of hearing you talk about it." So then I kind of did the challenge accepted, and I developed it from the ground up. So I know enough about code that I wrote the algorithms, and I created the shell of the website, and then had somebody else kind of piece some of the things together inside the website, because I had been removed from coding for a while at that point. Mm-hmm. I knew enough to know that I could get in there and mess around with stuff and really screw it up if I wanted to.
Right.
But yeah, I did build it from the ground up.
That's good for our listeners to know, that if you have some, amazing idea like this, it's, go for it, right? Start just working on it. And I think that's a great point. While, you spent 5 years planning it and working it and refining in your mind how you would do it. When your wife said, "All right, jump or forget it," and you jumped, you said, "All right, I'll take the challenge." You were ready. You were ready to do it. You thought through it enough. Because a lot of people think, you have a great idea and you're just you're gonna build it and they're gonna come kind of thing. And you really need to do, a decent amount of planning. But the experts will tell you too, don't overplan, because best laid plans aren't exactly what happens anyway, especially as an entrepreneur. So
Absolutely.
so that's good to hear that you took it right from the ground and but spent some time kind of percolating it.
Yep. And to your point about the best laid plans, I think one of the biggest things as veterans we learn in the military is how to confidently move forward on an 80% solution. So it's important you don't want to move forward on a 3% solution. That would be ridiculous. But do enough planning where you kind of have an idea of what this thing is going to look like, and start tinkering with it and see if it's even going to work, and then just move forward, take action, because you can plan the perfect business forever, and then when you finally launch it, you realize nobody wants it, and
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point you brought up too. Is one of the things you learned as a military veteran is the 80% solution is good enough to move forward. One of the things that I always try to stress is that veterans and those with military experience really need to leverage those core strengths that they built up over the time that they were in the military, because they will be amazed at the results they get just by leveraging those core strengths.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give other aspiring combat veteranpreneurs on things that they should do on their journey that were instrumental for you?
Several things. That's a loaded question. Several things come to mind. The first and foremost, if you're going to go out on your own, you have to have your financial house in order. You absolutely have to. You have to have your money situation taken care of, where you're either going to stick with your day job until it gets up and running, or you've got some savings set aside that can carry you through for a little bit, because everybody says it's going to take twice as long, cost twice as much money, and I would argue that it's going to take more. So that's first off. Second, you have to have support in place. If you're married and your spouse is not on board, something in that equation needs to change, because though you are going to have massive highs and lows every single day as an entrepreneur, and you have to have a support network in place. You have to have your family has to be on board. Your friends don't necessarily have to be on board, because they'll tell you you're crazy,
Right.
and you might be. But you have to have a support network in place, even if it's other entrepreneurs. Absolutely, I would say surround yourself with the best team possible. That doesn't necessarily mean yes men. I mean, that means, or yes women. It means just surround yourself with really smart people that can help you move forward. And the other thing I would say, and it kind of goes to the 80% solution thing, is start selling yesterday. A lot of times people are afraid about talking about their idea because of intellectual property, and they don't want somebody to steal their idea. And I think that's a valid concern, but kind of check that box with an attorney and then move on. you got to circulate the idea. You have to circulate it and see if people will buy it. And
Exactly. Yeah.
there, before whatever you're trying to do is developed, talking to would-be customers is great. Hey, if I did this, would you buy it? Would you pay $10 for it? Would you pay $1,000 for it? Whatever the number is. That's good information. But the sooner you can get something out in the market and actually see if somebody will pay their hard-earned money for it, that's validation. And so you can't create the perfect product, attempt to create the perfect product and then try to go out there and sell it, because it might be that nobody wants it. So if you can economically get whatever it is you're trying to do out to the market and see if anybody will buy it, though an actual customer is way more valid and gives way better feedback than a would-be customer.
Yeah, exactly. No, these are all amazing pieces of advice. I agree with them all. Start early, and definitely you've got to have something out there for them to be able to, if it's a product, something they can put their hands on. Because once they put their hands on, then you've got the best person to give you that feedback of, okay, this is good, but this isn't.
Yep.
And so, you start really getting that true validation, as you said. That's good. And of course, the whole theory, surrounding yourself with smart people, can only help. You're only as good as the 5 people you spend the most time with. So that's definitely important. And the whole support network of your spouse. I've seen so many times where somebody's got a great idea and the spouse is like, yeah, I'm not on board, and they go for it anyway. And then, like you said, the entrepreneurial roller coaster starts, and the spouse that's not on board is now, wanting to tank the whole project. And so it just doesn't work out in the end.
Yep.
So, great advice. We're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Landmark Life Coaching's vision is to be the nation's premier coaching partner for inspiring and empowering those in transition. They partner with courageous groundbreakers and transitioning veterans to create fulfilling and empowering futures that they desire. They have partnered with various entrepreneurs and transitioning veterans to leverage their core strengths and implement the framework for the future they always dreamed of. Could you or anyone you know benefit from a success partner to bring clarity to your future or their future? If so, please check out landmarklifecoaching.com for more information and charliemikepodcast.com for the Charlie Mike Podcast, showcasing the successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Okay, we are back with Nick Bradfield of Divvy Investments. We're going to go into what we call the In the Zone segment now, Nick, and this is where we all love when we hit that sweet spot or get that feeling that we're doing what we are meant to do or where we're meant to be. Let me ask you, Nick, what was that point where you knew being an entrepreneur was meant for you?
There are 2 parts of that equation for me. The first part, when I was in the corporate world, and someone in my chain of command, I believe you mentioned it earlier in my bio, somebody told me that they needed me to care less about customers, and that was just hard for me to fathom. So at that moment, I knew that I needed to go do something on my own so I could wave a magic wand if I needed to take care of someone. So that was the first part where I knew that this is something I should pursue. Now, the actual moment when I knew that I was in the right spot was kind of a sappy moment, I guess. But my son is almost 6, and so he started kindergarten this year. And at the end of last year, he graduated from preschool, which I guess he took a really good nap, and so they let him pass. But at the preschool graduation, they had each of the kids. They asked each of the kids what they wanted to be when they grew up, and all the kids said they wanted to be a teacher or a firefighter or a policeman or a doctor. And my son said, "I want to work at home like daddy." And I thought that was super cool. Now, he thinks I am at home playing with his Legos all day. But still, I thought that was like, at least I'm rationalizing it as, this is my 5-year-old son way of telling me he's proud of me.
Absolutely is. Yeah, no, I'm all in on that. That's for sure. That, I had a similar experience, not from an entrepreneurial perspective, but, my son was in school and they said, write a short story about your hero. And everybody wrote about, whoever the latest sports people were, whoever, things like that, policemen, firemen, just the generic stuff. And my son wrote about me, and then he gave it to me as a gift. And I'm like, wow, yeah, no, so that's huge.
Yep.
I totally get that one.
And it's a part of it is because I'm in business for myself. Obviously, you're going to work a lot, but at the same time, I have the freedom of going to walk to pick him up from school, or you have the freedom to carve out blocks of time that otherwise you may not be able to do. So all of that, him saying that is really kind of a validation of those are the things that I was doing. I was making time to pick him up from school and to carve out little sections of time, and that worked. Whereas oftentimes in the corporate world and as an entrepreneur, you can just very easily end up working, and then dying. And like all these people that are in your life end up kind of getting neglected. So when I started this company, that was go ahead.
No, I was going to say that is an amazing point. I think that should resonate well with our listeners because, one of the big things that, even being in the military that you miss, right? You're on deployments, you're held up at, work a lot. And so that's what they crave, right? I want to be home. I want to walk my son to school. I want to be there when he gets off the bus. I want him to see what I do day to day. And obviously your son is very attentive to what's going on, and it's having the effect as intended, right? And so that's huge. Yeah. So what are some tools or resources that you've used that you think others would benefit other entrepreneurs? Because there's so many tools out there, there's so many resources. You can drown in the social media world in a day and trying to chase the different tools. Is there any tools in particular that you're like, this is like bread and butter to how I use this and how I run my business, or I use this to start the business?
I would say the biggest tool or resource I think that any veteran can use. There's a million technology tools out there, and I'm sure you've had multiple interviews where people have listed out their top 5 technology tools. For me, the biggest tool and biggest resource for my business has been the network, and it's the veteran network, other local entrepreneurs, just that I didn't even know very well, but I just picked up the phone and called them and asked them for a half hour of their time over coffee. It said, "Hey, I'm starting a business. You're in this industry. I know you've had some success. I want to pick your brain and find out what made you successful, and what can I avoid? What are some mistakes that I can avoid?" I think we have an amazing network as veterans, and in general, we want to help each other. We want to see each other succeed. Mm-hmm. None of us want to be victims, and none of us are victims. We're the ones who are going to raise the country up. So we want to help each other do it. Exactly. And I think one amazing resource that's out there now is Bunker Labs. Mm. I was fortunate enough to go through the first cohort in Raleigh, and it's a great resource. It's a startup accelerator. There's a dozen of them across the country, so there's one probably fairly close to most people, and it's growing each year. And it's the way to tap the veteran network. I mean, you're getting a whole bunch of veteran entrepreneurs in a cohort walking through, trying to help each other, mentoring each other, and it's kind of a safe zone where right when you walk in the door, there's this automatic level of trust because we're all veterans, and so all the BS goes out the window, and someone can look at you and say, this part of your business sucks.
Right.
And or this part's really cool, and maybe you could tweak it like this or do it like that, and it's real feedback. It's not somebody just kind of sugarcoating something for you, because that we all know that none of that does anybody any good. So Bunker Labs is a big one for me, and just the network in general, other local entrepreneurs, people in the industry. Don't try to do things all by yourself. There's a lot of people out there who are willing to help.
Yeah, that's important. I hear that a lot from very successful entrepreneurs. Is you need the counsel of the multitude. You won't be successful on your own. Everybody kind of some people kind of see entrepreneurship as, I'm just going to go out and do my own thing. Yeah, well, you're going to do your own thing, but you're going to do it with the counsel of many, because there's a lot that you don't know once you get out there, and there's so many skills that you learn as an entrepreneur, which is amazing. But to learn those skills and not repeat all the mistakes and not take a long time to learn them, yeah, you need those networks. They're absolutely important. And yeah, I've heard a lot about Bunker Labs, and it sounds like a really phenomenal resource out there. One of the best I've heard. People are consistently talking about it, so they're making an impact.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at, I didn't believe it at first, but you'd be amazed at how many people will take a first meeting just to try to help you out. If you're calling and asking for help on lessons learned as an entrepreneur, you'd be amazed at how many people will take a call or a coffee or whatever,
Right.
and
Yeah.
just give you time to pick their brain.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think they get something out of it too. To be honest, it's even if it's a small tidbit of information, just having that conversation, and sometimes it's validation for that other entrepreneur to have the ability to share what they know and see that that has a positive impact on somebody else. So yeah, definitely agree. So. Yeah, so Nick, this has been an amazing conversation. As we're running out of time here, I'd like to give you an opportunity to let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you or learn more about your business.
Sure. It's divvyinvestments.com, DIVVY, investments.com. If you want to get in contact with me, it's N Bradfield at divvyinvestments.com. And I'm on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I do the best I can with social media, but I'm not completely fluent in it. So I am out there though.
Great.
And
All right.
in social media, it's either Nick Bradfield or Divvy Investments.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you again for being on the show, and most importantly, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you as well.
Remember, loyal listeners, we are the home of the free because of the brave.
Thank you for tuning in to Charlie Mike Podcast with Dwayne Paro. Our objective is to bring successful veteranpreneurs to help inspire and provide insight into what helped them become successful, with the hopes you can take away various strategies you can implement in your entrepreneurial journey. Visit us on iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and let us know what you thought of the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hoorah!